Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Corey Yoder of Coriander Quilts, and today I am inviting you to come along and sew with me. I have a project that I want to work on. I have cleared some time out of my schedule, finished up some big deadlines, and I decided I wanted to do something fun today. So if you've seen my works in progress videos, you might be thinking, oh, you're gonna check off some of those bindings off your list, or oh, you're gonna make one of those coriander Christmas blocks because you need to finish those up first. And you are wrong. I am starting something completely new. I'm sure as a quilter, probably many of you are excited to jump into a new project, even if some of the other projects aren't done yet. I remember when I very first started making quilts, I told my mom that whenever I started a project, I was gonna buy just what I needed for that project and complete that project before purchasing anything else for another project. That didn't even last a year, I don't think, because you see the new fabrics and you don't want them to be sold out, and so you purchase the fabrics and then you just want to dive into that new project. And I guess my project today isn't exactly like that because I have been collecting these vintage sheets over the last number of years. You may have gathered if you've watched any of my videos that I really enjoy the collecting part of making quilts, and I will collect things, Tilda fabrics for example, or those tea towels that I shared that quilt not that long ago. I like collecting things, and then I have a fun time collecting and then a fun time planning what project I'm going to make. So these were all fat quarters, and a couple years ago I cut them down into 2.5 inch strips. So they're about 2.5 by 18 inch strips. And I thought I knew what I wanted to make with them, but I have since changed my mind. And I'm gonna see if I can make a jelly sticks quilt this afternoon. It is about not quite 11:30 this morning, and I'm gonna see how quickly I can get this cut out, and then we'll see if I can get it sewn together and maybe have a completed quilt top within, I don't know how long it's gonna take me, within a few hours, maybe by supper, I don't know, maybe I'm being ambitious. My girls are both a little bit under the weather, so we're just staying here at home, and I think it's gonna be a great sewing day. So I'm gonna keep track of my time and see how long this takes and just kind of bring you all along for the ride. If you are wondering about where one goes about purchasing vintage sheets, I purchased a lot of these on Etsy. You can purchase them in your local thrift shops or Goodwills or those sorts of places too. I've never had any luck purchasing them that way. So I find ones that I like on Etsy, and they are oftentimes sold in fat quarters, which makes it really easy to pick and choose the exact prints that you like. And then I will just purchase one fat quarter when I find one I like and add it to my stash. So I have a pretty good selection of them, and I want to show you kind of the prints that I've chosen here for this project. I've chosen a pretty good variety, kind of a rainbow of colors, and picked out the ones that I need. So these are the strips that I need, and I'm gonna bring these over here. These are all of the ones that I don't need. So I still have a lot that I can use for another project, but they're really neat and really soft because they've been used and loved, and maybe even some of you recognize some of these prints that you may have had on your bed growing up. I don't know, they're so fun. So you see what I'm talking about here. This is what I'm going to use for the strips in jelly sticks, and then I'm going to use this fabric over here for the little bit of white that I'm going to need for the background, or not even so much the background as it is the center of those blocks. This white is the white on white from Buttercup and Slate, and it has sort of a daisy tossed print across the whole thing. So I think that's gonna work really well for those centers. And I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of move things off my cutting table here. I'm gonna start with the white because it's the most boring fabric to cut. And sometimes I just wanna get the boring fabric cut so that I could move on to the pretty fabrics to cut. So I'm just gonna start cutting, and once I have everything cut, I'll let you know how long it took to cut everything out, and then it's going to be on to the piecing. I got a phone call right at the end of that last clip. So I moved all of my jelly roll strips over. Well, they're not quite jelly roll strips, but my 2.5-inch strips over. And let's just go ahead and get started cutting. And just that easy, the quilt top is all cut out. Now I didn't cut out borders because, as I said, I'm not sure if I want to use borders or not, but I've got all of the pieces cut out for the blocks. It took me about 15 minutes. So that gives you an idea of how quick the jelly sticks pattern is to cut out. Now you saw that I did kind of stack my strips as I was going, and that did make the cutting go pretty quickly. So now it's time to start assembling the blocks. I'm gonna start sewing and then I'll let you know how my progress is going. Okay, so I have been sewing for a few hours. I took a lunch break right after I cut out all of my quilt pieces. So I took a lunch break and answered some of the comments that you guys were leaving on my Cozy Up Trunks quilts video. That video just went up today. So I've been trying to keep up on responding to those comments on that video this morning. So during my lunch break, I answered some of those, and then as soon as that was done, I just got back to sewing. I started back up at about 12:45, and I've been sewing for not quite 3 hours, and I have all of the blocks sewn together. This quilt needs 20 blocks, and they're all done. And I want to show them to you because they are turning out so cute. They're just happy and bright and flowery. And these blocks, I'm just gonna, as I chat, I will flip through these blocks so that you can see what they look like. But these blocks would be wonderful scrap busting blocks if you wanted to just cut your rectangles from a whole bunch of your scraps. That would be wonderful. I have been really enjoying using these vintage sheets. Now I did notice, because these are used sheets, they are washed and worn and well loved, that these fabrics are thinner than typical quilting cottons would be. So if you're a starcher and you wanted to do a project like this, you are probably going to find that you really will enjoy the starch, because that will give them a little bit more body than what they have. I do not starch for quilt blocks in this size, so I did not starch, and the blocks have been coming together beautifully. It's a really simple pattern. No squares, that's not what I meant to say. No triangles, no flip and stitch corners, only straightforward piecing, and it's been a really fun project to work on this afternoon. So you get the idea there. The only thing left to do now is to sew these blocks together. The layout for this quilt is 4 blocks across by 5 blocks down, so it's not going to take me very long to finish sewing this quilt together. And at that, if I just stick with just the blocks and no borders, it will finish at 48 by 60, so it'll be a smaller sized quilt. And I'm gonna wait until after I sew the blocks together to decide if I want a border or not. I don't mind a smaller quilt, I just wanna see how it looks. I don't have a great border fabric on hand that I know of, so I'm keeping that in the back of my mind as I'm sewing these together. So I will go ahead, get these sewn, and then I will pop back on here and show you the finished project. I think it's gonna be really pretty. And I'm back. It's now a completed quilt top. That took me about 35 minutes to sew those blocks together. So it really did go fast. Now I am a pretty quick sewist, so I don't know that it will go as quickly for everybody, but it is a fast pattern to piece. And I'm really happy with the way this looks without a border. It pretty much frames itself out because it has prints around the whole perimeter of the quilt. Now I'm gonna lay this on my cutting table here so you can kind of get a closer look of it, because it did turn out really pretty. All of those fabrics mixed together, and it's just so pretty and happy. I've got some scraps I'm gonna move out of the way there. Just so pretty and happy. Now this kind of quilt, when it's scrappy like this, you can overthink your fabric placement. So I didn't worry about it too much at all. I just kind of let things go where they wanted to. If I noticed there was same prints close together, I pivoted a block, but for the most part, I just laid out my stack of blocks in the order they came. Now, if you have fabrics that you're using with a lot of contrast, like if I would have a really dark gray or a navy or those sorts of colors, those are the ones that you're going to notice, your eyes are going to notice the quickest. So those you would want to spread out and about throughout your quilt. But when you're working with a lot of scrappy prints that have pretty much the same value, there are some lighter prints in here, but for the most part, this reads as fabrics of similar value the whole way across the quilt. You don't really have to worry as much how you place your fabrics. Like you can see right here, these two prints, those two I think are the same. If not, they're very similar. There were a couple similar fabrics, but something like this, once it's all quilted up in there, the more I look at that, the more I think those are two different fabrics. But even at that, even if they would be exactly identical fabrics, you're not really going to notice it in all of this color and print. So this was a fun one. I hope you have enjoyed this little sew with me video. This is the first time I've shared this sort of video. If you enjoyed it, I'd love if you'd let me know. And if you wished I had included some of the other steps of making this quilt, I'd like to know that too. I didn't share any pressing or any sewing. You know, I kind of cut in between finishes and then moving on to the next step. So let me know if you enjoyed this. I thought it was a lot of fun sharing this video with you, and I can't wait to be back with you again next time. So have a wonderful day.